I am your father.
It's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Look, I'm not an idiot. I'm not here to convince you, the viewer, that Thor Love and Thunder was actually a masterpiece or that it was a great idea for Multiverse of Madness to only go to like 2 multiverses in a movie called Multiverse of Madness. But as I was singing my favorite songs in the shower and thinking about life and why we're here and the existence of planet Earth, it kind of hit me that we've done a little bit of revisionist history on just how good the MCU was leading up into Avengers Endgame. And don't get me wrong, Phase 3 was unbelievable. There wasn't one miss, and we probably will never get to the peak of the MCU again as long as we live. However, to sit here and pretend as though Phases 1 and 2 were nothing but peaches and cream is pretty irresponsible. And yes, I did the math myself. You can grab a calculator, graphing or otherwise, and do this yourself. The average critic score for the tomato meter for Phases 1 and 2 are less than the average critic score for all the projects in Phase 4. Now, Phase 3 obviously is the outlier with an 89%, but if you take everything that they've made, Phase 4 has been better received critically than Phases 1 and 2. Now, this is where you scream and yell about the box office, because we've had some absolute stinkers in Phase 4 in terms of making money. However, I don't think this is necessarily a knock on the MCU movies as a whole. Don't get me wrong, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was garbage on a stick. However, that's Phase 5, and I'm not talking about Phase 5, I'm just talking about Phase 4 here. And that movie deserved to not make that much money. But look at a movie like Aquaman. The first movie was all right. It made $1 billion. The second one came out 5 years later, was probably not that great, and didn't come close to making $1 billion. My point is this: if you want to make $1 billion today, you got to have a movie that's 1, unreal, 2, appealing to the masses, and 3, incredibly marketable. But then you take a movie like The Fall Guy, starring Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer and Ryan Gosling, Ken himself from Barbie, and that movie makes little to no money. That's how it works nowadays. If your movie is not unbelievable and well marketed, it is not going to make $1 billion. Doesn't matter if you're the MCU, the DCEU, A24, Star Wars, you need to have the perfect recipe to be able to hit this benchmark because of the current state of streaming, of people going to the movies, of people's taste in superhero movies. What you have to understand about Phase 4 is that it was basically Phase 1 2.0. And the new CEO of Disney at the time, Alan Horn, was creating this new thing called the Disney streaming service, aka Disney Plus, what we know it now to be as. And they mandated that Kevin Feige push out a bunch of content for Disney Plus. So he had to spam us with multiple TV shows per year, and he was not able to oversee every single project and intertwine them and make them connect and make them as good as they could possibly be. And now it's not rocket science for me to sit here and tell you that it's bad to do quantity over quality, which is why I think Phase 5, starting now really with Deadpool and Wolverine, can slow things down, pick and choose the best projects to make, and focus on where this is all going. Because if Kevin Feige had the ability to just make the projects he wanted to make, you might not have a show like She-Hulk. You might not have a movie as convoluted as Multiverse of Madness. You might not have something as irrelevant as Echo. These are all things that might go away. Characters might show up in other things instead of getting their solo TV shows or weird random movies like Black Widow, which is a movie we all wanted but came 5 years too late. All this to say, if you look back at Phases 1 and 2 of the MCU, it was not perfect. The first Iron Man came out with a bang. That was a Paramount movie. It was not a Disney movie. It's weird to see the Paramount logo in front of that movie. Then we went Incredible Hulk, which is a fine movie. The guy was recast. Then Thor was okay. Then Iron Man 2 was First Avenger was fine. And then the Avengers, the final movie in Phase 1, finally brought it all together. It wasn't until the 6th movie in Phase 1 that we realized the potential of the MCU. Phase 2 started to pick the ball up a little bit, but the big letdown of that phase was Avengers Age of Ultron, because you've had movies like Ant-Man and Captain America 2 and Iron Man 3 and Guardians that started to mold things together, but it was the second Avengers movie that made us go, I don't know about that. However, that second Avengers movie led us into the beginning of Phase 3, which is Civil War. And that kicked off the best era for superhero movies you will ever see, and it will be hard to top. But to sit here and say that Phase 4 has been nothing but garbage, guys, it's just not true. Without Phase 4, we wouldn't have one of the best moments of my entire life, Spider-Man No Way Home. We wouldn't have the best origin film since Iron Man in Shang-Chi. We wouldn't have one of the best TV shows based around a superhero in Loki, which got nominated for multiple Emmys. And for people looking for a little bit of flair and nuance from the MCU, we got 2 holiday specials, one a Christmas special that was actually meaningful to Guardians 3, and a Halloween special, Werewolf by Night, directed by Michael Giacchino, the guy who scores all these movies, which was also critically and pop culturally successful. But here's where Phase 4 let us down, and here's where it's hard to get people to realize that Phase 4 has basically been on par with the bulk of the MCU this whole time. Phase 4 has been the first phase that's made truly bad MCU projects. Thor Love and Thunder is not good. Many of the TV shows feel like a complete waste of time. And Eternals, while I thought it was okay, where's that going? What are we doing with all these characters? And that's the main issue, which brings us back to why there were so many projects that were mandated that really, really hurt this thing. We needed a big time reset, and instead we pushed on the gas and went full steam ahead. And that was the biggest problem with Phase 4 of the MCU. Phases 1 and 2, they were in their infancy and they were still finding their footing, which led to some misses, okay? They weren't swings and misses, but they were ground outs or line outs. We are striking out with some of these Phase 4 projects, and Phase 5 has not been great, save for Guardians 3 and Loki Season 2. So we'll see what happens with Deadpool and Wolverine. But we have to stop pretending as though Phases 1 and 2 were absolutely perfect. Phase 4 has been just as well reviewed as Phases 1 and 2. And to compare it to basically a series finale in Avengers Endgame was always going to be a losing battle. And now I would like to sit back and discuss the moronic, stupid, dumbass people that say that the MCU is bad because it's actually the MCU. Okay, first of all, I did the math. I got the numbers right here. Of the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17 projects that came out for Phase 4, 11 were led by males, 3 were led by females, one of those is Black Panther, so we could say 2.5, and 4 were team-ups. None of the movies forced gender identity politics or the Black Lives Matter movement or women's rights down your throat. There may have been inklings of things here and there in a Black Panther movie or a Ms. Marvel TV show, for God's sakes. It's not going to kill you. And guys, I hate to break it to you, but this X-Men reboot is going to be political. Do you know why? Because the X-Men are political. Go back and watch X-Men, X2, and X-Men The Final Stand, where they basically have a whole bit about how the mutant gene is actually whether or not you're gay or straight. And the mom asks her son, who's a mutant, well, can you choose to not be a mutant? It's all there, and we all like those movies, so when that shit shows up in the new X-Men series, I don't want to hear anything about Gambit wearing a crop top. And I get it. People make those videos because negativity sells, and the thumbnails are hilarious. And, you know, Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are in wigs now because everybody hates guys and everybody loves girls, and that's how the MCU is now. But if you actually look at what we've been watching, the content has not been great, but not because it's all of a sudden wokeified, like some people would have you believe. And Deadpool and Wolverine is probably going to make fun of all you idiots for even suggesting such a thing. If you think it's bad, tell me why you think it's bad. Don't tell me it's bad because Brie Larson showed up. Tell me it's bad because it's a bad movie. And now that I've gotten all that out of the way, I just like to say this. I don't know if we could ever reach the heights of Phase 3. I thought maybe we could. I don't think we're going to get there. We've had some great moments in Phase 4. I think it's been just as solid as Phases 1 and 2, except the lows have been extremely low. I understand that. However, if Feige and Iger are truly pulling back the reins and only working on the best projects they have at their disposal and focusing on how do we get to Avengers Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty, we have a chance here. The MCU is an underdog for the first time since the first Iron Man. Let's see what they can do. What do you guys think? Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Am I a crazy loser? Do I have a point? Or am I somewhere in the middle? Probably somewhere in the middle. Drop likes, drop comments. Please be sure to subscribe. It is free after on no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.